Hello, this is Required Reading, a podcast that revisits the most impactful books from our childhood. I'm your host, Erin Bowles. I'm an actor and writer. You might know me from Welcome to Flatch or Gaslit, both roles that I got thanks in part to today's guest. She dazzles me every day with her tenacity, her creativity, and her welcoming heart. Elizabeth Valenti is a producer, actor, and writer. She is currently in post-production for her short film Puppy Love, in which she stars, co-wrote, and produced. She also produced the short film See This, starring Rachel Hilson, which will make its debut next year. And her producer debut for hit Friends recently premiered at Dances with Films in New York and LA. And you can see her on Minx on HBO Max and The Conners on ABC. You were phenomenal in The Conners, by the way. That was so fun.
Thank you.
And she continues to work in casting, acting, and producing. Welcome.
An amazing intro. I feel like you gave me a lot more credit than what should be given to me, but I'll just take it. I'll just say thank you and I'll take it.
Good. You're doing so many things.
I'm busy. It's all fun though. It's all fun. I just
Good.
my friends will be like, "What? How are you?" And I'm like, "Busy."
Yeah.
They're like, "Okay, but how are you?" I'm like, "I'm just busy. I'm busy. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just busy."
Well, our book today is A Bad Case of Stripes by David Shannon, and I like to give just a little context about the author, the year that it came out. So it's written by David Shannon, also illustrated it, and his first book was published in '94. It's called How Georgie Radburn Saved Baseball. But Shannon says that he first wrote his first children's book at age 5 with the only 2 words he knew how to spell, which was no and his name. And it depicted all the things that he wasn't supposed to do, and that became his most popular book, No Dated, which was published in '98. Autobiographical, it won the Caldecott honor for Best Picture Book of the Year and had a bunch of sequels. It came out the same year as this book, as Bad Case of Stripes. It was '98. Other things happening in '98. The Monica Lewinsky scandal breaks in January, and by December, Congress is filing articles of impeachment.
Oh my God.
Google
is crazy.
Founded. Yeah. Google is founded. And in terms of pop culture, all anyone can talk about is Titanic. It comes out in '97, but is the top grossing film of '98. Seinfeld ends, Sex and the City premieres, Britney Spears releases Baby One More Time.
Oh my God. 1998 was a stacked year.
Yeah.
Erin just keeps like naming off all these things and my jaw has been dropped this whole time.
Yeah. And top grossing films other than Titanic include Saving Private Ryan, There's Something About Mary, and A Bug's Life.
Wow.
So why this book? What's your story with this book?
All right, here's the deal. So Erin came to me and was like, children's book, what do you got for me? Like something that you really remember that is like a core part of your childhood. And, you know, I read this book in prep for the podcast, obviously. I haven't read this since I was little. And reading it, I'm like, you know what? This is like really cute story. And it's just basically telling you to like be unique, be yourself, like don't like be unapologetically you, which I think is such a good little like lesson to learn when you're a child. I was terrified of this book growing up. The reason why it's so memorable to me is the illustration, which is just it is really beautiful. It's very, very colorful and unique. But it terrified me because I thought that this could happen to me.
Yeah.
I like genuinely as a child was worried that I would like become this girl in the book. And again, the whole point of the book is to be like, you know, accept who you are. And like, it's okay if you have stripes or polka dots or whatever on your body. But like, okay, this is obviously an audio medium.
That's
so
okay.
the listeners will not be able to see this terrifying image of this girl becoming a literal house.
She becomes her own room. Yeah.
She becomes her own room, and she has like these tentacles growing out of her and crystals and trees and all of this stuff. And I was like, this could be me one day.
Yeah.
I could become a room and have these things growing out of me. And I don't know what I would do about that. And I have very vivid dreams, and I remember growing up literally having dreams like I was Camilla Cream, and like and that like this happened to me. I had stripes and I walked into school
Mhm.
and I was like, that's it. I'll never be the same again. And that's the lasting impression I had on that this book had on me.
Mhm.
But now looking back at it, I would like my kids, whenever I do have kids, to know that they can be themselves and they could eat whatever they want and not be afraid of what other people think. If you like lima beans, you should eat lima beans. But I don't know if I should even show them the book to see if they would also be as scarred as I was
The
growing up.
illustrations are so vivid.
Yes.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of children's books that are illustrated have like a degree of distance in terms of my art history teacher is going to be so angry at me. But in terms of the distance that it puts from reality, and this one looks so real and
Yes.
visceral and so anxiety inducing. I didn't have this book, but I know I
was gonna ask if you like knew it before this podcast or if you had any nightmares like I did with it. Okay.
Well, I think we probably like read it in school. I knew about it, but it wasn't like in my personal home library or whatever. But I had like my version of that is that I could not watch ET. I got through like 10 minutes and I was like, the stairs in that house had gaps in between.
Yes.
So I thought his little arm was going to reach out and grab me and yank me down into the basement. Oh, we lost Elizabeth again. For those listening, we're having a lot of technical difficulties, and that's okay.
I don't know why it's happening.
But opening this book and reading the very first page, my thought was like, this girl has anxiety. This girl has generalized anxiety disorder if I've ever heard of it.
She sure does. She tried on 40 something outfits.
Yeah. And that was something that was interesting to me is that I didn't realize until the very end is that the stripes happen before she ever interacts with other people. It is like fully based on what's going on in her own head and her own fear of their expectations, which I think was like really effective. And one of my big questions is like, why lima beans, do you think?
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking about it too, because I thought, well, he couldn't choose chocolate or ice cream or whatever, because every kid loves eating ice cream and chocolate and stuff. So he had to think, okay, what is something that's out there enough that no one really typically eats? And it couldn't be like broccoli, because that's like the one vegetable that everyone always would, you gotta eat your vegetables, gotta eat your broccoli or whatever. So I thought it was like just off enough in terms of who seeks out lima beans to be like an quote unquote odd thing to love to eat. I mean, this isn't remotely equivalent to lima beans, but I love sunflower seeds. And unless you are an MLB player, I don't know many people who seek out like sunflower seed packets at like a grocery store, and I do. And so maybe that's like a weird equivalent to the lima beans of like who seeks out lima beans.
But are you an X-Files fan at all?
No, I'm not.
Okay, the lead character loves sunflower seeds. They bring it up but it's like that's amazing 11-season show. they sprinkle it in throughout.
Oh my god! If you want to watch this 11-season show, and just for like that fun little fact, it will come in maybe season 3, season 7, and in the finale they actually bring it up again.
I always thought lima beans were like, this is maturity. Like no kid could like this thing. Like you said.
I don't even know if I've ever had a lima bean, to be quite honest. And I'm 27 years old. Granted, I have the taste buds of like a 12-year-old prepubescent boy and like eat like pasta and chicken nuggets and stuff like that. But I'm getting better. And maybe today is the day I have to go grocery shopping after this. And maybe I just go and buy some lima beans to get a sense of what this girl is about.
From what I remember, I don't think they have much of a flavor. I guess one of my big questions is like, do you think the metaphor of stripes works? And I think it
totally does.
It's all about expectations, and it is that she becomes a mirror for everyone else, and that sense of self is lost.
Oh, and she is a people pleaser.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Where is she getting this from? Who is like making her this stressed
Which
out?
parent?
Exactly.
Is it a parent? Is it a teacher? Like,
Mhm.
is it one specific bully that she has?
Yeah.
I want to like look through
Mhm.
because they do show the parents at one point.
Yeah.
Like this, you know what? This one kid, he
Mhm.
gives me bully energy. And for those of you who are listening, it's a white boy with blonde hair, and he's wearing a striped shirt, and he is giving her the stink eye during the Pledge of Allegiance.
His mouth is a perfect circle.
His mouth is a perfect circle, and he looks like the ultimate bully. Her parents seem like they are meant to be in the musical Chicago. So if you think of any character from Chicago the musical, that's what they look like. So it could be them. It could be the principal. There must be an adult figure who has like unrealistic expectations for this girl, because she's objectively like a pretty
Yeah.
girl,
She's a cute
and
little girl.
she's a cute little girl, and like she shouldn't have to think about all these things, and she should be able to just like live her life.
Mhm.
Honestly, it might be like a kid at school just bullying
Mhm.
her, and that's not like the main thing that
Mhm.
is a part of it. It's more just of her learning that she needs to be herself, because that's what eventually cures the bad
Right.
case of the stripes, is like
Mhm.
she actually eats lima beans and is happy that she's eating them, and is like, I'll never not eat lima beans again, so I'll
Mhm.
never not be myself, basically.
Right.
And like, I'll do what makes me happy, I'll eat whatever food that makes me happy, but it's got to be an outward source.
Yeah. I think I was so surprised because when I read it now, like as a 25-year-old, when I finished it, I was surprisingly angry. And I was like, why does Camilla have to change? Why are we not having systemic change here?
Yes, yes.
I was like, why are we saying don't bully her, don't alienate her, don't make her feel weird, don't poke and prod her? And I was so angry about that because I think it like the message I got from it was like the external harm bullies will do to you is not as bad as like the internal harm that will happen from trying to meet expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Which is true, but I'm also like also not true. Also, the violence happens. Like
Yeah,
how,
yeah.
but it's also like how can you put all of that nuance into a children's book? It's a 30-page children's book.
Well, also, this is crazy that this is the conversation we're having
Yeah.
from a children's book.
Yep.
I thought about it, and I was like, oh, like just before,
Mhm.
getting on the podcast, I was thinking, I feel like we're going to be talking about like really deep issues that are
Yeah.
definitely a part of my life as an adult,
Mhm.
that are very much a part of this. Like, how old is she? Like 6 or 7? I don't know if
Yeah.
they ever like exactly say how old she
Mhm.
is. Yeah, they just say it's her first day of school, not a specific grade or anything.
Mhm.
But like within the 7 to 10 age
Yeah.
range, I was thinking the topic can really get deep.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like the trigger warning, I guess, for hate crimes, which is something I never expected to say on this podcast. But the same year, 98, do you know about the Laramie Project or the death of
Yes,
Matthew Shepard?
yes,
Same year, exact same year that
that's crazy.
for those who don't know, Matthew Shepard was a
Mhm.
University of Wyoming student who was gay and who was beaten and tortured and ended up dying of his injuries because he was gay.
Mhm.
And so the whole time I was reading it and being like, but also that's not, and especially because now we're in 2023 and trans kids are being killed
Mhm.
and so it was sort of like I think I was just so frustrated on such a a level of why is the institution not changing and why is
Yeah.
it that you have to have thicker skin rather than just trying to accept everyone for who they are, because I think like I don't think we ever hear anyone say, like no one says Camilla, lima beans are gross and I don't like you for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's never personal, but she invents it as personal as far as the
Mhm.
reader knows.
Mhm. Mhm. I was gonna say too that, like, I wonder how much, because we're also seeing it from this 2023 mindset, right? Like, of course, I'm reading this and I'm reading it as an adult, and I'm what we're talking about is like these things are part of my life. Like, I have anxiety. I try on like a bunch of outfits, you know, for a night out or something, and I'm like, I'm ugly. But like, how much was that impacting David Shannon writing this?
Right.
Like, was he thinking, oh, you know what, this will be really impactful for like the LGBTQ plus community and like expressing themselves, or like we're seeing it in that way,
right?
But how much was actually in the foreground of his mind when he was writing it, or if it was just like, be yourself. But I guess that's also what all of this is anyway. Like that's like a big thing for me that I just don't get whenever someone's like, whenever someone is like right-wing people being like, I don't like gay people, or you know, I don't like black people or whatever. It's like, why do you care? Why? It is not harming you to accept people the way that they are. If they're like different from who you are, they're not coming after you, even though like you might disagree on all fronts or whatever. Like, they are not affecting you, letting them live their lives, or like dressing the way they want to dress, or however you express yourself, however I express myself. Is it gonna bother me that some person is like, they painted their nails and are non-binary or something? So I want that person to live whatever life they want.
It's none of my
why does
business.
it matter? It's none of my business, and it's not affecting me if you're wearing nail polish, Erin.
Exactly. It is so it's not for me to say. In talking about identity, you know, the lima beans end up being the cure. This mysterious grandma shows up and she says, I knew the real you was in there somewhere. And I think one thing that I've just been thinking about a lot in general, and what came out for me in this book, is that it feels like your sense of identity feels like so crystal clear as a young child. I think that was one of the things of like, you know, the first sentence is, she loves lima beans. There's no equivocation about this. This is true. And I feel like the older I get, the less I like know who I am. The less I don't know who I am. I don't really know what I like.
I agree with that. I think because there's so much more when you're an adult. Like, there's more that you get to independently explore and learn, and that's great because there's endless possibilities. But I always find it funny when people are like, you know, your 20s are your time to like really explore and get to know you, and by the time you're 30 or like in your 30s, like, you really know who you are and you will not change. I'm like, I am changing literally every day. This time last year, you wouldn't catch me eating a single spicy food. I had no palate. I could not do it. I would swat it away from you. And now half the foods I eat are spicy foods. And part of it is because I am dating a guy who really likes spicy foods and has been like, you know, you could try some if you want. And so that's been a part of it. But I'm constantly changing in things that I thought were, oh, this is so true. Whether it is like something that I eat, or it's like, oh, I actually didn't realize I really enjoyed producing, and this actually satisfies the creative part of my brain and the type A part of my brain. Oh, I've never experienced this before college, going to college, a little post-college. Like, this is new for me. And there's always a sense of exploring oneself in life, or at least that's what I personally think. And I think when you're a kid, there's so little that you can actually have a say in. And so all the things that you do have a say in, you're like, no, I like pink, and this is it, and I like lima beans, and I like princess so and so, or whatever.
That's such a good point. It is resting the little bit of control that you have. Is what your room looks like and what you wear and who your friends are. Because I was thinking about this going in, is like, there are expectations up until you like move out of the parents' house and you are living on your own. And then I think that's the very frightening moment in your early 20s of like, well, if no one is expecting certain things of me, then what am I?
Yes.
What is it?
Yeah.
You're an only child, right?
I'm an only child from my mom. I have
Mhm.
two much older half
Mhm.
brothers
Mhm.
who are like a decade older than me.
Right.
So I felt like I was treated like an only
Yes.
child, to be honest.
God, I'm an only child. When I go home, and I think this was also true when I was growing up, my parents just kind of stare at me like
Yeah.
you are the thing. You are the entertainment, and when you come home, you just staring at you the whole time. You're like,
Yes.
you're here. It's not necessarily like pressure to be anything or do anything, but there's so much focus and
Yeah, totally.
attention.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think Camilla Cream is an only child.
She sure does seem like it. I mean, again, look at this girl's closet.
Yes.
That is a walk-in closet
Yeah.
for a child. She
There's no
definitely.
way two siblings are having 42 outfits.
Oh no way. And like they got on it right away. They were like,
That's
okay,
true.
we got to focus up on this. I'm looking at the pictures in their house and it looks like it's all just like old family members. So it doesn't
Yeah.
look like there's any children and other children involved. And it's like centered around her.
I hadn't noticed that about the background of that image. And again, this is, maybe reading it too much into it, but I think there's a lot of being adultified as an only child because you're isolated and there aren't other kids around.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that room especially, and the way Shannon draws the parents, and because it's all very beige and serious and stiff.
She is very colorful compared to the rest of everything. Like even this first image before she has stripes, it's very it's very toned down. Like even though there are colors in her wardrobe, it all feels very bland until you actually get to the next page where it's all of these like pops of color in the stripes. But also, I just as I was flipping through, this is an aside and it does not need to be included in the podcast at all, but I love how he fully like drew this woman who's a reporter and just copy pasted and put the same exact thing on the television. It is quite literally the same exact pose
I didn't
from the
notice
page
that.
before.
That's great. The image where she's a pill full of other tiny pills, I really identified with it, and it reminded me of when Carrie Fisher died. She wanted her urn to look like a Prozac pill.
Mm-hmm. This image. Yeah. This one also terrified me growing up. Like just the shape, like the full shape of her changing, which should also be like, who cares like what shape I am and like what I look like and stuff. But growing up seeing this, I was like, I will become a pill. I will be see-through, and I will change into the shape. I will morph into the shape. I don't know what made me think that something would do this to me. Like if I didn't eat the food that I like, which I do love broccoli. That's my favorite vegetable.
Me
But like
too.
if I didn't eat broccoli or something, like this would happen to me.
Yeah. You're talking about this like irrational fear of that happening to you, but I think everything you're saying sounds so much like what she experiences of being afraid of what are people around me going to say. And I think like that the childhood imagination is so boundless, and also everything is in extremes. Like the second episode I've recorded, and the first was about the summer I turned pretty. And the language,
cool.
it was really fun. But the language, every
so
sentence,
different.
Yeah, every sentence in that book is like, this is the best summer I've ever had, and he was the worst person I've ever met, and this was the funniest thing, and everyone on the beach heard us laughing. Because I think the whole concept is just like, take a very simple thing and take it to the highest extreme, which is like, which is comedy, which is drama, which is everything that we do. But it does feel real. It does feel very possible also.
That this can happen. Totally. Oh my gosh. I really felt like it could happen.
Do you consider it required reading? You talked about for your kids.
I think so. And I think I would just have the little caveat of like, just like making sure your kid knows like, this is fictional.
This
like,
is a metaphor.
this is a metaphor for just to be yourself and like not take whatever someone says in your like class or anything or outside of classroom too seriously. You cannot turn into this girl.
Will not happen.
It will not happen to you. I just like, it's such a cute story, and it is a really good life lesson that reading back now to prep for this podcast, I was like, you know what? I got to listen to this sometimes too. Like, you know, I feel like, you know, I have anxiety. Everyone has anxiety, but like I have anxiety around like what people are thinking a lot of the time. And so, you know, even though I can be really sure of myself about things that I like or things that I do in life, I still will have a voice in the back of my head, like at night going to bed thinking, oh, was that person like upset that I did that? Or was that weird that I said this thing and like went off on this tangent or whatever?
Yes.
And so, you know, something that I needed to read as an adult right now.
Yeah.
And I think there's, you know, there are some other books that I thought of for this, like The Little Prince is my all-time favorite book, and I'm sure someone will bring that on to this podcast.
You can also come back and do it if you want. You can come back as many times as you like.
If no one eventually does The Little Prince, I will come back and do The Little Prince. But I never read it growing up, is the thing.
Right.
But I read it in French class for the first time, and since then I've read it in French and English, and I love it so much. I think some of the best children's books are books that you can read as an adult and be like, huh, wait a minute. Similar to like, have you ever seen Bluey, the Australian kid show?
All over the place, but I haven't. I've sort of been like, I don't think I'm ready to handle the
realness of that show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that show is real. I started watching it because I babysat a child, and I'd be like, oh wait, can we watch the next episode? It is just genuinely so good to hear as a child and also as an adult. And I think Bad Case of Stripes is the same thing. It's like a good thing to hear as a child and also a really good reminder as an adult. Like, just be unapologetically you. Be yourself. Like, don't let others push you. Don't try and be a people pleaser. You can't please everyone. At the end of the day, you can't please everyone, and the more and more you try, the more stressed you're going to be, and it's just time and energy that is, they don't deserve that. There's a part when I was reading this where I was just thinking about like COVID and how like there's no cure, we all don't know what this is, like it's not this, it's not the flu, it's not it's not a stomach bug. Every doctor in this book has no help, not helpful in a colitis. Not helpful at all. They're like normal doctor, like their go-to doctor, nothing. Put some cream on it. Great. Did nothing. Everyone at school is like, no, she needs to go home. No one in the news knew anything. They have literally 4 doctors on her at once in this one page. And none of them, they all just give, this is also saying a little bit of something to the medical system.
Yes.
Because I'll tell you right now, all 4 of them prescribe her a different medication. They don't know if it'll work or not. They're squeezing money out of Miss Camilla Cream's family.
How much? Because 4 doctors cannot be covered by insurance. 4 different
for sure
doctors. But I think that's a comforting thing and a frightening thing for children. And I think happens often in children's literature is that all of the adults are just as lost and sort of hapless as everyone else.
Oh yeah, all of the adults in this book suck. They all don't know anything. The specialists, the experts, nothing. Look at these people with these little clipboards. They don't know a thing. None of the news crew knows anything. They're just trying to use this as like a fun little puff piece at the end of their news cycle or whatever. And then the only person that actually helps is this old woman
that we have no information on.
Who we have no information on. Just a little knock at the door, and it stood an old woman. I don't even think we ever got a name from her.
I don't think so.
That's Mrs. The old woman. The old woman. Nope, just an old woman. She doesn't have a name. No name. But she's the only one who brings it home.
I also wonder, if anyone ever just said like, Camilla, what's going on? What,
Yeah.
what's up with you lately? What might have
Yeah.
caused this? Which I think that is also something I've noticed in the last episode we did and in my own childhood, is that like the most simple little like nuggets of communication don't happen,
Right.
and everything goes wrong. You know, my mom every weekend had plans for me to go with her to something, never told me about them, never like, so she would show up on Saturday mornings and be like, why aren't you ready? And it's like, you never said, do you want to do this? And that,
Yeah.
and it was like years of this ongoing conflict because like a 4-word sentence was never uttered. And it causes so much frustration.
Right. Literally, all of this would have been avoided if the parents were like, hey, what's going on? Are you doing okay?
Yeah.
Like, is something going on?
Yeah.
How are your friends? Is there something else that might be going on in your life? Instead, they're like, well, obviously something is medically wrong with this girl.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have an excuse. We don't know anything. And obviously, I guess like he's using the old woman as like this old wise,
Right.
like has lived to know this is the quintessential truth of life, is to just be yourself or whatever. Here's some lima beans, kid, have fun.
Right.
Like I'll cure you. But if the parents or anyone just said, how's it going, maybe they would have gotten to the bottom of it.
I think that's something frustrating about parents, is that you always have so much love 90% of the time, coming with such good intentions, and it always goes wrong. It never works out quite right.
Yeah.
Oh God. I don't intend on becoming a parent, in part because I think like, is there any way to be a parent and not like fatally screw up and do something wrong? But I guess that's the risk you take, and that's love.
Well, yeah. And at the end of the day, that's love, huh?
That's love, honey.
That's the lesson we learned. And that's, at the end of the day, that's love, you know?
Yep.
I had a conversation a lot with a bunch of friends of like the idea of being a parent and like thinking about, you know, getting certain books for your kids or whatever. But I've talked to so many of my friends about becoming a parent and like how you know, our parents have screwed us up in specific ways, or you know, however we are, and how we've been affected by our family, the place we grew up, like that our upbringing. And we also talk a lot about like climate change and like, and you know, all of the political climate of America. And it's like, is it like morally right to bring a child into the world right now? Is that a good, like, should I do that? Like, I would love to have a kid and tell them, you know, here's this book about Case of Stripes. You will not become this girl, but here's a good lesson.
Yeah.
But then also I'm like, I don't want this child to die because the earth is too hot.
Yeah.
Or because someone brings a gun into their school. Like I think about that a lot too. I don't know if that's going to come up a lot in this podcast because of children's books or books that, you know, and that books are being banned too. Would this book even be, is this book banned in Florida right now?
Right.
I don't know. I don't know the full list, but like even the idea of that her skin is changing colors and it's like, oh, no, can't have that. Like, would this book be banned by DeSantis? I have literally no idea.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I don't know. Regardless, it is required reading.
Yes. Good. Good answer. I think so too.
If it's to my kid or to an adult who's like, I need a little pick me up, you know, go for it.
I think that is something I did not anticipate, is how useful these texts are at any age. I think perhaps even more useful. I'm so glad we did this.
I know, this was so fun. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you.
Like, I feel really honored that you asked me to do it.
Oh my gosh, of course.
I was just like, who me? This is silly.
You know, I have been thinking about this a lot lately, in that I think from the first moment I met you, I was like, oh, this is a friend. I think I have
Oh,
always felt
that's
like very
nice.
welcomed by you.
Oh,
And yeah.
I'm so glad. I mean, I
Mhm.
just like I feel like I don't know if you want to keep this actually in the podcast or not, but I just feel like when you are in a new city or like
Yeah.
you're trying out something new
Mhm.
or you're like starting out something, you're like, I don't know if this is like I don't know if I should be doing this or if
Yeah.
like if I'm supported or whatever. And I've told my friends this a million times over that like I want to surround myself with
Mhm.
people that are genuinely supportive and there for me.
Yeah.
And I want to be the exact same for all the people that I like that are my friends. Like I want to be supportive of them and be there for them whenever they need me. So
Well, thank you for coming on the show. You're welcome back anytime.
okay, cool. I'll come back whenever you want.